have any questions, please feel free to type them and we will address them at the end. And for your reviewing pleasure, we will also be recording this so you could watch it online. It'll be on our website later today. Other than that, I'm going to turn it over to Doug Morris, the CEO and founder of CSI.
Morning, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning, or if you're in the UK, this afternoon. This is our best practices and product overview webinar, primarily for iMerge users. We started doing this series of webinars when actually I was at a client and they said, well, I wish we could do this, this, and this. And I said, well, you own iMerge. You can do this, this, and this. And they said, oh, wow, you know, I guess we haven't updated it in a couple years. So we want to make sure everyone is aware of all the great features of iMerge that have been included with all the updates. And we also invite anybody else who has a CSI product in case they want to learn more about iMerge. So let's get going. So first off, a big thank you for everyone that has trusted us for iMerge. We've got over 250 organizations using it today. We started on 1.0 way back when. Today we're on 4.1, and it just continues from there. And a big chunk of what you see in iMerge today is based on your requests, your suggestions, and actually just working with you. So we couldn't have done it without you. Thank you so much, and keep the suggestions coming, and we're going to give you some ways to submit those at the end of this call. Our agenda is pretty straightforward. We're going to cover why we wrote iMerge. This is kind of the meat of it, you know, stuff that's in iMerge, and that's the technical term, if you will, stuff that makes your life easier. Fun little things about iMerge, our really powerful ability to merge web accounts, our new duplicate finder, new as of a year or two ago, some ideas that we're looking for our next release. And then if you are our typical client, you may not be on the latest release. We're going to tell you how to get the latest release, how to install it, and if you run into any trouble, how to get help. At the very end, we'll do our Q&A. So feel free to fire those off during the webinar. We're interested, and we'll answer all those at the very end. So, you know, why did we create iMerge? Well, customers needed a really fast way to merge records. That was really the original reason. The existing options out there took a long time to do a merge. We realized that our customer service folks were the ones finding the dupes, and they needed to just get it done quickly. And they didn't want to be asked a whole bunch of questions. They just wanted to merge all the things that they weren't able to do, and that was activities, subscriptions, financials, certification, orders, and then everyone always says, well, what about events? Yes, of course, events. So that's, you know, we needed just a fast, quick little tool to do that. And so how do we do it? We created a product to do what an end user can't do, to do all those things. And then all along the way, with all of our products, we try to keep it simple. Adding one little checkbox option to a product doubles the testing time, because you've got to test every feature of the product with that checkbox off and every feature with it on. So we're careful not to introduce unneeded complexity, because those checkboxes might mean you're going to have to refer to the manual. And really, we want to keep the product as simple to use and as powerful as possible. So we wrote iMerge, an end-user tool for merging duplicates with enough power for the geeks out there, and then designed by real end users. This is really, you know, really what, you know, an end user could be a little geeky. They could be, you know, someone that's a power user. In fact, we're seeing that more and more with our IMUS clients. So we're going to actually show you some cool stuff here, mostly PowerPoint, because we want you to be able to refer to it, but I'll jump into the program at some point. And so what is new that you may not know about, especially if you haven't updated iMerge in a long time? We allow the merging of multi-instance tables without the use of a stored procedure back in 2012. We were actually able to take iMerge's ability to merge outside tables, tables that are not in IMUS, and enhance it to merge multiple instance user-defined tables in IMUS. We used to be able to call a stored procedure, and about 2 years ago, we created the ability to call a stored procedure at 3 different intervals, and we'll talk about that as well. User credentials, everyone is getting dupes because people are kind of lazy and they don't want to go find their old record, their username and password, so they're creating new records. So we added the ability to merge and transfer user credentials about 2 years ago, and we've got a very unique way of doing that we think is really awesome. Enhanced error reporting, so now that when iMerge runs into a little issue, we actually get information on that issue here at CSI to help us deduce it. People were doing a lot of batch merging, and iMerge would come up and say, whoa, Zach Grant has 2 subscriptions. I can't merge that record, and it would stop. So someone would give iMerge 500 records to merge at night, and it would stop an hour into it, and they'd come in the morning, and it was sitting there. So we added the ability to suppress those error messages, deal with them in the morning. About a year ago, Duplicate Finder got added. This year, we added support for RISE event survey questions. All of our products are now self-licensing, and as I talked about the error reporting, so you no longer have to worry about getting a license key. There's some interesting creative ways that IMUS does gift reports now, starting in 20.1 and 20.2, and we've enhanced iMerge to support that. And thanks to Andy Weaver, support for autopay back in June of 2015. So that's this month. We actually just released that. So if you are using autopay, get the latest release of iMerge. So let's talk a little bit about each of those things. Merging multi-instance tables. How do you do that? You go to the options and you go to edit custom merge fields. So there's the options window. You go right down to edit custom merge fields. And then you get a little warning message there, okay, that says, hey, heads up, this is used for non-IMUS tables with the exception of multi-instance user-defined tables. We don't want you going and typing in an activity there or anything like that. iMerge needs to do that stuff on its own. This is multi-instance user-defined tables. What's a multi-instance user-defined table? It looks like that in IMUS. It's a table that almost is like an Excel spreadsheet. In this case, you can see I've got my specialties user-defined table, and I can have multiple specialties. And so I jump into iMerge, and I go to my custom merge fields. I choose my database, I choose specialties, and then I choose ID as the field. And I continue to add that. So you'll see it looks right there. CSI demo, name demo specialties, ID. It will automatically take any data from the duplicate record that is in this specialties table and move it to the good record. Remember, iMerge was designed to do what the end user can't do. The end user can certainly do this on their own, but we've added the ability to help them out a little bit. What we have not added is the ability to merge fields for regular IMUS tables, including demographics. You have to use our stored procedure methodology, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And a single instance table, it looks like this in your IMUS. It's your regular table. You can still merge it, you just have to do a stored procedure. And the reason we haven't added that yet is that each customer is different. Each customer has different rules. They may or may not want the stuff copied over, and so hard to build into the program. But we think we have a pretty good idea, and we're going to ask you about that in a little while. So when I talk about stored procedures, what do I mean? Well, iMerge can call a stored procedure. That is SQL stuff that tells it to do things that are unique to your organization. And it can call a stored procedure before, at the beginning of the merge, or at the end of the merge. Before pre-merge checks, if I call a stored procedure then, well, I might do that if I want to do some cleanup. We've had people buy iMerge and say, I've got this big mess, we imported all these records and we imported duplicate registrations. I don't want the registration on the duplicate record. I've got a nice stored procedure that I created or my solution provider created. I want to clean up that duplicate registration because that's going to cause iMerge to, not merge the record. So you can actually do some stuff before iMerge even looks at the records. Remember, iMerge is going to look at the records and make sure it can merge them. This is for cleaning up reasons that it can't merge. The next time you can call a stored procedure is at the beginning of the merge. That means everything checks out with the 2 records, and we're about to start the merge, but we want to make sure the end user isn't doing something they shouldn't do. Customers use this. They load up their board, they load up their executive committee, and they make sure that iMerge fails if you're trying to touch one of those records. It's a great way that we call it to fail iMerge. Never merge ID 102 and 103. So you can put rules in there that say, you know, this record should never be touched. You're telling iMerge, don't touch this record. And then the most popular is at the end of the merge. And that's when we're going to say, the merge is done. I got some extra stuff to do. You could use it to email someone. We use it for our web credentials merging. You could do your demographics then. All sorts of fun things can be done at the end of the merge.
So Doug, I noticed there's an asterisk on this feature and the previous feature you showed.
Zach, thanks. I forgot to bring that up. Whenever you see these asterisks, these are things that the new contact merge in IMUS does not do. Contact merge is built into 20.1 and 20.2. It's a nice feature. It works great. iMerge just does more, a lot more. And so when you see an asterisk in this PowerPoint, that basically means, hey, this is something you can do with iMerge that you can't do with out-of-the-box IMUS. Thanks, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
Here's calling the stored procedure in iMerge. Options, call stored procedure. And then here I can choose, do I want a before pre-merge at the beginning? And I'm actually calling the end of merge one, and I'm calling our built-in CSI merge web account. I do need to tell it the duplicate ID and merge to ID. They have to be in there. And if you're like, what are you talking about? I don't get this. Well, you can actually just go to our manual. We give you sample stored procedures. This sample stored procedure that's in there shows you how to retain the oldest join date of the two records and the most recent paid through date. It also shows you how to keep, say, the spouse. So if the spouse is missing on the record you're keeping, but on the record you're getting rid of, it tells you how to move that. So each of these is custom to the organization, and you can set it up however you want. We give you a sample one. It helps to know SQL. You can reach out to your solution provider, and they can help you create this as well. So we want to get you started. There's a sample one. Our web credentials one is also out there. We just don't give you the code for that. So how about merging user credentials? Well, we think we've got a really smart way to do that, okay? Customers want to keep the most recent user credentials. So Zach, you know, he has his old record in IMUS, and it's zbrant, and his password was Ohio State #1, and he forgets that all the time, and so he's created a new record, and it's Zach Brandt now for his user credentials, and it's Ohio State #1, right? What's going to happen with iMerge is it's going to look at what the most recent user credentials used were. So in this case, we are actually going to go through and say he logged in with his duplicate record credentials more recently than his current ones. Let's keep those because he probably has a better chance of remembering that. IMUS is going to just keep the one on the record you're keeping. We think that an end user has a much better chance of remembering the one they just created. So our built-in merge user credentials will keep the more recently used one. So what's that look like? Here's his existing record, zbrant, right? And we can see he last logged in on that back in 2013. Here's the record I'm going to merge to. He actually uses the login of Zach. I can't see his password. That's okay. But it's more recent. So in this case, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the info from this record no matter what, even if that's the record I'm getting rid of. How do I turn that on? Well, it's all in the manual, but here it is in our PowerPoint as well. You will see if it's on that there's a little note at the bottom. And what it looks like when you turn that on and it's on, you're going to see this. It's going to keep the more recent one. And the setup for that is right here. I go to Options, Call Stored Procedure, select at the end of the Merge Radio button right here. Sorry, my mouse is not going. There it is right there. I select the CSI Merge Web Account. That's going to be automatically in your IMUS database. I set the duplicate ID to duplicate ID, the merge to ID, amazingly enough, to merge to ID, and then I click the all-important Save button. You do that, and this will automatically start happening in IMUS. Okay, so how about our error reporting? Got another little asterisk on there. We think this is really cool. This is designed to assist us when something goes wrong on your end. It's going to send the SQL code that caused the error in iMerge to us. If you are afraid that we're going to see something you don't want us to see, you can turn that off. You just go to Help and uncheck Report Runtime Errors. It's going to ask you when you install iMerge, do you want it on or off? You can turn it on or off. We prefer you left it on because then when you do crash, we have a record of it. This is what we get when that is on. We get the product name you're using, iMerge, because this is in most of our products. We get what version you're on. That allows us to say, yes, that was a bug in iMerge 4.0, but it's been solved. We know your IMUS version, so that if you're trying to run this on 4.41, we can say, well, that might be a little bit old. We know what database, SQL database you're using. We know that you're using SQL 2008 R2. We know it's running on a Windows Server 2008. We know the username of the person who logged in. We know what company you work for. We know the error message you got. We know how it connected to your database without the password. We know the actual statement that caused the error. And then we know the trace information from our program as well as what time it happened. Okay? So why do we do that? Well, in the past, when you'd run into a goofy error, we had to ask you to help us troubleshoot it. And that's tough because sometimes we needed your database, sometimes we needed to do a WebEx. Now we can actually see the exact cause of the error, and we get quicker support, and we can keep your support update fees lower. So this is us peering into your error message, and we'll talk about how you can use that when you submit that. Batch merging. We've always had this ability. It's been very powerful. We've had customers creating their own list of duplicates outside of IMUS and iMerge for years. And basically, iMerge can take that list and just go to town on it. You've just got to make a file that has your duplicate IDs and the ID you want to merge it to. In iMerge, you go to Load Batch Merge, and iMerge is going to go to town. As I mentioned, prior to February 2014, if it ran into an issue, it stopped. That was disappointing when you came in the morning and your batch merge was no longer running. So it will keep going, and it will report to you on what records it couldn't merge. And those are going to be records that have duplicate event registrations, duplicate subscriptions, things like that. So it's going to give you a list and say, hey, thanks, I've merged these 23 records, but 2 of them couldn't be merged. For Duplicate Finder, we added this ability last year. If you were an existing customer of us, you got it at 0 cost. We did raise your software update fee by $100 a year. But ultimately, we felt this was important enough to add to the product. It was a huge endeavor, and we needed to support our people that have been loyal to us. So, probably wondering how you get to that. Well, you go to the Duplicate Finder, and you go to Tools, Duplicate Finder. All right? And I'll show you that in a second. So what can it do? Well, the coolest thing is it can do multiple profiles, because you may not want to use the dupe match key in IMUS. And you may want to adjust how many records it returns. You may want to adjust what fields it shows you when it returns the duplicates. You may want to adjust what it's checking for duplicates on. Maybe it's first name, last name, and company. Maybe it's 5 letters of the first name, 7 letters of the last, and 4 letters of the company. Maybe zip code is in there. You can make your own duplicate check formula. You can ignore foreign characters so they're not messing things up. And then you can exclude certain records. Maybe I don't want to see company records returned, so I can actually exclude certain records from it. We think customers, and we've seen it so far, customers are going to come up with creative ways to find duplicates. So you can actually export and import the search profile. So if someone on this call has the most awesome search profile out there, is just they have figured out how to find duplicates, you can share that with other iMerge users, and they can then find duplicates. So as you enhance your search profiles, that's pretty powerful. You know, we're trying to make it a community type thing. I found a great way to do this, and now I'm going to share it. So what else can it do? Well, it supports known duplicates, right? So we've got Tom Smith and Tom Smith. They're two different Tom Smiths. They happen to live on the same street. Short story there. I did almost move 3 doors away from another Doug Morris. I can only imagine how terrible that would have been. Same street, almost the same address. With Duplicate Finder, of course, I could say those are 2 different Doug Morrises. What else can it do? It can merge on the fly. So as I find a duplicate in that list, I can just click on it and say, take care of that right now. Just get rid of it. Done. Or I can say, add that to a list. I'm going to merge these all later. I got a whole day of going through these. So I'm going to add that to a list. And at the end of the day, once I've done going through all of my duplicates that iMerge has found, I'm going to say, now merge them all. So that's pretty cool. So similar to the batch merging we talked about before, where you're feeding it a list of IDs, this you're doing via the Duplicate Finder. This is cool. Our priority grouping. Greg Hartigan used to work for the American Public Works Association. He now works for CSI. He had a lot to do with this cool addition to iMerge, and he had something that he used to do on his end called priority grouping. The concept is that if I run iMerge for the first time and I fire up the Duplicate Finder, it might find 1,000 duplicates. Well, that's not going to be fun. That is not only a rainy day project, that's a winter project. And so Greg figured out that, you know what, some duplicates have a higher priority than others. So let's break them into groups based on when they were added to IMUS. And let's allow the user to specify how many, the dates that is. And so really what that allows you to do is find duplicates that were just added, okay? So those are the hot ones, right? Zach has just added 2 records to IMUS. The quicker I can get those records cleaned up, the better. The next group is where I have a record that just got added versus another record that was added a long time ago. Those are still important, but they're not that as important. And then group 3 is these are records that have been duplicates for a long, long time. You need to clean them up. It's probably not as urgent as you think because they've been out there forever. In short, the Duplicate Finder can really rock your world. Let's go over the stuff I talked about. Here's our profiles, okay? In here, I can go out here and I can create new profiles. This is the default one that I see here, my find list maximum, the fields I want to show the end user, my actual duplicate record check formula, if I want foreign characters included or not, and then my exclude. In this case, I'm saying, don't show me anybody I've already marked for deletion because I don't want to see them. I've already figured that out. Those are profiles, and you can see I can save that and just hit Find Dupes, and I can make this profile go away by hitting Hide Details. Once I found my dupes, as I click on each one, I can merge on the fly. And that's just clicking the merge button down below. Notice there's a cool little swap button down on the bottom, so you can decide which one you want to keep and which one you want to get rid of. You can add to the batch merge. So, wow, I've got a lot of work to do. I'm just going to keep making a batch. I don't want to wait for the merge to occur. And then, of course, the add to known duplicates. In this case, Brian Hickey is a known duplicate. I want to keep it that way. Don't bring this up anymore. And then, as I showed, the ability to export the profile. Very powerful. Share it with your friends, whatever you've got. You wouldn't want to export the default one, but anything else. So take a moment, catch your breath, okay? That's a lot of stuff. I thought I would jump into iMerge just real quick to show you the stuff that I talked about. So you can see here, there's our duplicate finder. I'm positive some clients have upgraded to the latest version of iMerge and they don't even know it's there. But it is there. You jump into Duplicate Finder. Here's my profile. I can choose from many different profiles. Here's an optional one. Here's the built-in one. I can go out here and find my duplicates. It's got them broken into my priority, and it tells you what the priority is. Here are the records added since 3/17/2015. And sorry, I guess it only shows for a little bit. And they match other records added since then. So before and after. That's up here in priority grouping. Once that's on, you can set the number of days and your time frame. So you can go back to an exact date or number of days. If you do number of days, it'll continue rolling forward. And then it tells you what each priority is. Priority 1, records added since 3/17 that match other records added since 3/17. Priority 2, they've been added in the last 100 days, but they match a duplicate added prior to that. And then priority 3, they're all old. So you can turn that on. That's another thing. If you've been using Dupe Finder, don't forget to go in there and try the priority grouping. You can have the rows auto-size. You can have the columns auto-size. And you can set your connection timeout. We spent a lot of time making this very fast. You'll see that even if you have a large database, it works pretty good. And then here's the ability to export the profile. So that is the duplicate finder that's part of iMerge. And then you'll see the other options that we talked about here are in the custom merge fields. That's the ability to merge outside of IMUS, as well as multi-instance user-defined tables. Here's our stored procedure. We didn't talk about this, but it's in there. If you are merging individuals into a company, iMerge will support the flow down just like it does in the real world. So it'll flow down the company name and address to that record. That's optional. We don't recommend you delete the duplicate ID. Really, we'd like you to mark it for deletion, run the report in IMUS, make sure you really want to delete all those, and then purge via IMUS. Deleting the duplicate ID runs into issues if you have triggers on your database or some other funky stuff out there. We'd rather you just mark it and then run it in mass. So that's why we say not recommended. Okay, so where were we? Okay. We'd like your input. We think there's a cool way to enhance iMerge to support merging of user-defined tables and fields in IMUS. But remember, we want to keep it simple. We don't want it stopping and asking you and saying, Zach's got a spouse on his one record, not on the other record. What do you want to do, right? So what we're thinking is you choose each field, so spouse, or let's just say certification date. And if it's a date field, you can say, well, always keep the oldest, always keep the newest, or only move if blank. If it's a text or numeric, we could say move if blank on destination or always move. So we're looking for input whether you think this will be useful. We haven't had a lot of requests for it. I suspect people are doing it with stored procedures, but we're looking for input on it, and if you think it's a good idea, we're going to tell you how to do that, okay? And it will apply to all users. This will not be specific to a given user. So just a heads up, just like iMerge, the settings are across the board. All right. If you're not on the latest release and you saw something that you want to make sure you're on the latest release. So find out what version of iMerge you're running. You can see it on the login screen. You can also see it under Help. Go to our website, click the login button up top, enter the credentials you got when you purchased iMerge, which you've probably forgotten, but that's okay. So you can just email sales@csiinc.com, and Zach or Katie will tell you your login to our website. Go down to the product releases. You're going to see all of the CSI products you own, so you should see in our current under support. If you're not sure you want the latest release, go ahead and click on the documentation, because we put all of the documentation out there. It's automatically installed when you install iMerge, but if you just want to see the release notes or something like that, feel free to just click on the documentation, see what's new, see if it's worth your time to install it. So that's important. Once you download it, it's going to open as a zip file. Save it somewhere on your computer. A little tip from Doug. I create a file, a directory on all my computers called Erase Me. It's stuff that I just need for a short period of time, and when my hard drive gets full, I can erase it. So I like to save this stuff out to Erase Me, and in this slide you can see I'm saving it to Erase Me iMerge. You're going to click right mouse click on Setup, and we highly recommend you run as administrator because so many users have limited rights these days. If you run as administrator, it's going to make sure that iMerge installs properly. The first time you install it, it's going to say, hey, I need to upgrade your database in a couple ways, and it's going to ask you either for your SA password or an equivalent user password. It does not require SA, but it requires something that can create stored procedures on your database. If I'm talking in another language right now, that's cool. Just go to your IT person or your solution provider, and they will probably, they'll do the cash register thing where you move out of the way and they type in the information. So when you launch iMerge for the first time, you're going to see this little message. And this is our new self-licensing system. It is going to send your IP address. It is going to send your IMIS licensing information. It's going to check against our database here, make sure you're current, and self-license the application. Prior to this, you needed to install a crazy license key that you probably lost. If you choose not to contact our servers, that's okay. You can click no. We will send you a license key that you can just paste in, the old way, if you will. We're going to send you that no matter what, but this way, if you're installing iMerge at 11:30 at night on a Friday, you don't have to worry about, oh no, I don't have the license key. It'll talk to our servers and get it for you automatically. It wants to turn on, oops, I put the iMove one in here, but that's okay. It wants to turn on the error reporting. This is the information that's going to be sent when you crash. So please enable that. If you choose not to, that's okay too. We're going to show you, we talked about how to turn that on. If you get stuck, read the manual. Brooke here is our QA. She spends a lot of time on the manual. We're always enhancing it. I think our manual is professional grade. It has a lot of stuff in it. Please, 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 please at least try reading the manual. If you're still stuck after that, email support. And if you can include a screenshot, okay? The screenshot is, I think Zach said recently, 1,000,000 words, not 1,000 words. It tells us so much about what's going on. And so, you know, if you can say, hey, I was trying to merge two records, one's a company, one's an individual, here's a screenshot, the more information you give, the better. And if you can make sure the error reporting is turned on and let us know what time the merge was occurring. So if you tried this Friday night and you're submitting a ticket on Monday, say Friday night at 11:30 p.m. Central, I tried the merge and it failed. We can go back into our log, we can look up your company, we can see the exact error you got and figure out what's going on. Our official response time is within 2 business days. Right now we're probably running 1, but with summer vacations happening, I can see that going up to 2. If you feel it's critical, after you've submitted the ticket to support, go ahead and pick up the phone and give us a ring, and we'll get it prioritized as quick as we can. We do try and access or work on tickets in the order they came in, but if something's really holding you up, we'll try and get you to the front, okay? So some silly questions. How many computers can I install iMerge on? As many as you want. We don't care. It's licensed for your database. You can install it on, it's licensed for your database and the license too. So you can install it on your dev, your staging databases. You can install it on your tests. You can install it on every computer in your organization. They don't even need to have IMIS. I said, hey, you know, why do we recommend you don't delete the old record? Well, because 9 times out of 10, when that fails, there's something wrong on your end. We'd just like you to try and delete it via IMIS, because that's the better way. You can get a list of all the records you're going to delete and then go from there. You do need to be a level 4 to use iMerge. So you go into customer authorization, you have to be a level 4, so anybody that has just read-only access is not going to be able to use iMerge. It does check that. You got an idea for an enhancement? Email it to support. Those get put on my calendar for the end of the month. I review them about every month or 2. If I see a duplicate one or one that makes a lot of sense, we'll add it to the product. Almost everything you've seen so far has been based on requests. And those requests come from me as well. They come from people here at CSI that use it, and more importantly, you guys. So when you have requests, send it to us. We'll review it. We'll tell you the story. We'll say, yeah, that's a great idea. We'll add it. We'll say, we haven't heard that before. We're adding it to the list, and if we get a couple more comments, we'll do it. We'll give you feedback no matter what. Are we going to do more events like this? So say you own Meeting Closer or email or one of our other great products. Yes, of course. Go to our webinars link on our website, and you'll hear all about them. We're scheduling these like crazy over the next couple months. So if you don't have time and or you want to see if we've already done one, then just go to the same link, and you'll see a list of all the past webinars as well, and you can watch the recording. You want to show your coworkers what I just showed them? You can check out our iMerge where we've got video clips and whatnot, and of course the webinar page. That's about it. Any questions right now? Let's see, we got a couple here. Zach, go ahead.
So it looks like the first question, does add to batch merge keep the list only for the day or until you run the merge?
It keeps it until you run the merge, and I will double check that because I know you can get out. So it should keep it until you run the merge.
Okay, our IMS is hosted by ASI. Do they need to install the new version for us so that we can get all of our users on it?
If you're using Terminal Server to access your IMS, that's a good idea. They should allow you to use it. They should allow you an admin logon. iMerge is supposed to be user installable, so anybody should be able to install it. If you're not using Terminal Server and you're VPNing, then no, you do not need to have them. You can put it on your own workstation. Those are great questions. Thank you.
Looks like those are all the questions right now. If anybody does have any, remember you can feel free to type those in.
Or email support. I want to thank you all for giving us 37 minutes of your time this morning. I really appreciate it. Oops, Zach's telling me I got to click the thank you very much slide. There's my email address. Feel free to email me as well. I don't mind. And once again, thanks so much.